In today's video, I'm going to be discussing executive orders versus Congress when it comes down to raising Social Security benefits for the roughly 71 million beneficiaries. That's the focus of the video. Let's get right into it. Now, really fast before we do, let me clarify. When I say Social Security, I'm talking about everybody who receives benefits administered by the Social Security Administration, including but not limited to Social Security retirement, disability, SSDI, survivors, spousal, and of course, SSI beneficiaries. Now, yes, I do recognize there are far more beneficiaries than those that I just listed, but just want to clarify that really quickly, just to answer some questions I'll probably see down below in the comment section. But the focus of this video is executive order versus Congress when it comes down to raising these all-important Social Security benefits. Now, let's be real. The last couple years here have been absolutely brutal for the low-income and fixed-income beneficiaries. Again, let's say it how it is. This is exactly what's going on right now. It is a really tough time, and we know that fixed-income beneficiaries have not been doing very well financially the last couple years, as inflation has been very, very high, eroding the purchasing power of these benefits, and the COLAs have not been keeping up, right? We've seen a ton of proposals coming out recently over the last couple years as well, suggesting raising benefits, adjusting the way that the COLA is calculated, raising benefits by $200 a month. Again, the list goes on and on. We see all kinds of proposals out there to change Social Security and to raise these benefits, making livelihoods a little bit easier for fixed income beneficiaries. That'd be pretty nice. Let's be real. We all recognize that would be very, very nice for most Social Security beneficiaries who need that money right now, right? Well, as a result of that, I want to talk through the details because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of different ideas floating around as far as how can we raise these benefits? How can we reform Social Security? What can we do to the program to make sure that it's sustainable for many more years into the future, and so these beneficiaries are not struggling as much financially every single month like what we've been seeing for the last several years here, right? So that is the situation. Now, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, executive order versus Congress when it comes down to all of this. Now, let's talk about the details of these really fast here. And again, that's why I said the focus of this video is that exact topic. Now, here's the thing. When it comes down to executive order, now obviously you already know this, but let me just say this really quickly. Executive orders are basically like a special privilege or special power that the president has to forego Congress. In other words, doesn't need to go to Congress to get approval, basically just writes it up and then just signs it, and then it turns to law. It must be enacted at that point. Now, this cannot be enacted for everything. There are some different things that executive orders can be executed for, but some things cannot be, okay? And that's where Congress comes in. Now, in general, the best practices are just sending legislation through Congress, right? Now, obviously, executive orders have a place, where they can actually be implemented. But for the most part, in general, the whole idea is to work it through Congress, pass it through the House, pass it through the Senate, send it on to the president, and get a signature. Now, this is generally how most legislation goes through, but in some cases where the president knows, hey, I can exercise my executive order powers, and this is not going to pass through Congress anyway. If I were to send it to them, let's just do an executive order on it. Now, that is generally when we see these being passed through and when we see the president signing these executive orders. But for all things, it cannot be done. Now, let me talk about how this pertains to Social Security beneficiaries and how these differ between executive orders and Congress. Now, again, when it comes down to Congress, generally we rely on these few hundred people in Congress, between the House and the Senate, to do all the legislation for us. But when it comes down to Social Security, guess what cannot be done at all through executive order? Yes, you called it. Raising benefits, reforming Social Security, virtually anything that comes through Social Security, it needs to go through the congressional process. It cannot go through executive order, unfortunately, which would be really nice because you never know. Maybe there would be a president there at some point who would say, hey, let's just do this through executive order and let's adjust the program, let's raise benefits, let's do all this through executive order. Unfortunately, it cannot be. It must be done through the congressional process, as in of the very long, lengthy, time-consuming process where lawmakers come together and they talk about all the details, and then they wait a long period of time. It could be, months, it could be years in some instances, where they talk about it initially, Maybe it's introduced on the floor for the first time. They talk about it, they negotiate it, maybe they make amendments to it, and then eventually goes through the process of, voting eventually, and then again, amendments all over the place where lawmakers say we should add this, we should take out that, we should do all these different things to it, and then eventually goes back through the voting process again. And if it passes through either of the chambers, then it goes to the other. Let's just say it passes through the House, for example. Then it goes to the Senate, where they do the exact same thing. They debate it. They vote on it. If they make any amendments to it, then guess what? Has to go back to the House and be passed again with the new amendments, right? It's a long, lengthy process, which again, you know this. We've seen this happen before with many other pieces of legislation, and we know that it can take a very long time in some instances, or depending on what it is, it can also be very quick in some instances as well, where they pass this legislation through, and before you know it, we're actually sitting there with a new bill and it's passed, right? So this is what it comes down to. But when it comes down to anything for Social Security, raising benefits, reforming the program, implementing a raise, again, it doesn't really matter what it comes down to. Cannot be done through executive order. Unfortunately, I know a lot of us here in the community think, hey, that'd be awesome if they could do this. When are they going to get it done? When will they adjust my benefits? When will they help us out? Stuff like this. So it all comes down to the hundreds of lawmakers between the House and the Senate who have this authority. It all comes down to them. That's what it comes down to. Unfortunately, I know, right? And this is how it has been. Now get this. Did you realize prior to 1975, lawmakers, as in Congress, were the ones who actually approved the COLA every single year for beneficiaries? Could you imagine that? They can't even get basic things done like, I don't know, approving the new fiscal year budget for the following year. They've been pushing that out time and time again, and it takes longer and longer every single year. That is supposed to be done by the end of September every single year, and as of the last few years here, they've been pushing it out until the end of December, or in this case, January or even February, okay? They take a very long time on all this stuff when it should have been done months and months ago. So to ask them to approve a COLA raise, that'd be nuts, right? But prior to 1975, that's exactly how they did it. So imagine what kind of a mess that would have been, right? Well, luckily, over the last, 50 years? Is that right? Yeah, almost 50 years now. I think my math is right on that. About 50 years now, it's all been done through the inflation data that comes out, and the Social Security just announces it basically in mid-October. So anyway, long story short, yeah, Congress versus executive orders. Executive orders are great when it comes down to some things. Yes, some things can be accomplished, and they do have a purpose, and they do have a place. But unfortunately, when it comes down to this one, raising Social Security, reforming Social Security, adjusting Social Security in any way, shape, or form, unfortunately, Congress wins this one. I know, we don't want them to win, right? But unfortunately, they win this battle, and that's what it comes down to. So hope this one helps you out. But again, I want to continue watching everything very closely. Sometimes I get these questions asking, why can't they just do this through executive order? Good question. That'd be really nice, but unfortunately, not really the case, right? So anyway, hope this helps you. Again, as always, please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends on social media. Go back and check out any of the other thousands and thousands of videos here on the channel, including those I have linked down below in the description or at the top of the comment section. And as always, leave your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. Until next time, enjoy your day. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll catch you again later in the next